All right, welcome back. We're going to do it a little bit different today. We're going to end up with a short little book review or a book excerpt, but here we are back in episode 4, Ahinoam, the wife of King Saul and the wife of King David. We've entitled this one, Saul's Family Feuds. And we did that because we talk about a lot of Saul's family members here today. Number 1, we're going to talk about Saul's concubine Rizpah. 2, Saul's son Ishbosheth. 3, Saul's uncle Abner, the son of Ner, who was also the commander of his army. And the book we're going to talk about today is The Historical David, The Real Life of an Invented Hero by Jon Baden. So let's get right into it. In 2 Samuel chapter 3, verses 7 and 8, we talk about Rizpah, Ishbosheth, Abner, and a dog's head that belongs to Judah. Here's our 2 verses here. It says, "And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. So Ishbosheth said to Abner, 'Why have you gone into my father's concubine?' Then Abner became very angry at the words of Ishbosheth and said, 'Am I a dog's head that belongs to Judah? Today I show loyalty to the house of Saul your father, to his brothers and to his friends, and have not delivered you into the hand of David. And you charge me today with a fault concerning this woman.'" So notice we've highlighted Abner's words and also David here. So this might be pointing to something that Abner knows here. But consideration number 1, let's first look at Rizpah, Saul's concubine. She appears on the scene. So the question is, once we see Rizpah, Saul's concubine, is where is Saul's wife Ahinoam? Now, possibly that answer could be that she was married to David. If you've watched previous episodes in this series, that's just a possibility. Now, consideration number 2, we'll look at what Ishbosheth accusing Abner of going into his father's concubine. And Abner's response is this. He says, "Am I a dog's head that belongs to Judah?" So the question is, what does Abner mean by these words? Could it be a general insult towards the tribe of Judah? That's possible. The Benjaminites and the northern tribes of Israel, they were against Judah. But could it also be a very pointed reference to David? David obviously belongs to Judah. David had even previously referred to himself as a dead dog. Back in 1 Samuel 24, after he comes out of the cave with a piece of Saul's robe, David says to Saul, "After whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog? A flea?" So maybe Abner, because he was there, most likely, maybe Abner knows something that we don't. So if our theory is correct, then this is just a possible paraphrase coming from Abner in his response to Ishbosheth after he's accused of going into his father's concubine. Abner might be saying, "Do you think I'm a dog's head like David, that you accuse me of going into your father's concubine, just like David, that dead dog, went into your father's wife, Ahinoam?" Again, that's just a possibility. If you put the puzzle pieces together, I think that's where the authors are leading us. Now, we'll go to the book, The Historical David, The Real Life as an Invented Hero by Jon Baden. I found this book very challenging and insightful. I'm not necessarily recommending it, but again, I think he has a very helpful treatment of the Ahinoam story because he does believe what we've been teaching in this series. However, just to put it out there, I find he has a very troubling treatment of some other events in the Bible. For example, he's very speculative on some events. He believes that Solomon is not David's son, but he believes that Solomon is actually Uriah's son. And for me, that's a little just too far out of bounds. I think we have to ignore a lot of other things that are in the Bible to believe that. But again, his book, I kind of recommend it if you're ready for it, if you just want to hear different takes on things. And there are some just gems and some things I think he brings up in the whole life of David that will stick with me for a while, that I found helpful. Again, some things I will probably not be defending the position there, but again, very helpful, I thought. So we'll read a quick excerpt from his book. This is a chapter 2. There's a subsection that he calls the breaking point, and this is focused right on Ahinoam. So again, here's a section, the breaking point. Go down a bit here. He notices that he says, after the notice of David's marriage to Abigail, this is referring to 1 Samuel chapter 25, after the notice of David's marriage to Abigail, the biblical text says something curious. David had married Ahinoam of Jezreel, so the 2 of them were his wives. And Baden says here, "This is unexpected news to say the least. We never heard of David's marriage to anyone named Ahinoam, yet here she appears almost as an afterthought." and she will continue to appear throughout the story, always first in the mention of David's wives and as the mother of his eldest son. She is thus more than an afterthought. But who is she? And when did David marry her? And why do the biblical authors bury the notice of their marriage here? Scholars have suggested that the two Ahinoams, Saul's wife and David's wife, are one and the same. And here's a footnote here, which to a helpful article I found. It's like an 18-page article by Jon Levenson, 1 Samuel 25 as literature and as history out of the Catholic Biblical Quarterly. I'll put some links to Baden's book and to that footnote there, and maybe some other things here. We'll continue on with Baden's comments. He says, the coincidence of names is telling on its own, but there's another indication that the two Ahinoams are one. Saul is said to have had two other sons born after Jonathan and his brothers. These younger sons, however, were born not to Ahinoam, but to Rizpah, Saul's concubine. This is 2 Samuel chapter 21. In other words, after David is said to have married Ahinoam, she disappears from Saul's household, replaced by Rizpah. It seems then that David took Saul's wife for his own. But how could this have happened? And then jumping further on, he says, this above all else must have been a precipitating event for Saul's attempt on David's life. There is no doubt that Saul would have wanted David dead for it. So that is why Baden calls this the breaking point, David taking Saul's wife. I think he makes some really good points, and there's some other really good points he makes just in the life of David that, you know, when I read 1 and 2 Samuel now, I'll have those thoughts in my mind. But again, I can't agree with everything he says. So in summary, if you combine Joel Baden's treatment of the Ahinoam situation in his book with the additional considerations in this video playlist, to me, it points to the strong possibility that Ahinoam is the same woman. She is both the wife of King Saul and later became the wife of David. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. I always appreciate them. And as always, until next time, contend earnestly for the faith which was once for all delivered to the saints, and God bless.